Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So, Ryan Garcia wants to fight Tank Davis. Oscar De La Hoya wants to fight. Not so sure Tank wants that fight. Not because he's afraid. I just think Tank's going to listen to whatever Mayweather says. He's going to listen to Ellerby. He's going to listen to Al Haymon. Now, we know if those two were to get in the ring, I definitely feel Steven Espinoza says he feels the fight could do at least 500,000 pay-per-view buys. I think that fight could really, at a minimum 500. Okay, yeah, I agree with him. But I think that fight can do around 2 million buys. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? So first with Ryan Garcia, look at where he's at now. By him getting there with Fortuna and clipping Fortuna, it put, as far as timeline-wise, it put Ryan Garcia back where he was when they had initially offered Fortuna to fight, but then Ryan pulled out for mental health reasons. So fast forward to where he is now, Ryan Garcia is back in a great position. And he should get into some huge matches in the next coming months and definitely going into 2023. But one thing I wanted to point out, Fortuna was a big name. Fortuna had a very impressive record. At the same time, Fortuna couldn't make 135 pounds. That's why it was at 140. Fortuna came in the ring at 157 pounds. Fortuna was out of shape. Fortuna only made $100,000. So that tells me that he was desperate. Fortuna was past his prime, and I'm not so sure how all of that came about, but for Fortuna to take $100,000, that tells me Fortuna was desperate, okay? He normally, I think he's signed underneath Samson, and he came over there to work this deal with Golden Boy. You know, Oscar's going to do what he has to do. He doesn't care. That's why $100,000 is not a big deal to him when Ryan Garcia is getting $2 million. So, although Garcia looked very impressive against a guy like Fortuna, Fortuna didn't really have much life in that fight. Now, some could say, well, Ryan Garcia took it out of him. Look, I'm not downplaying Ryan Garcia. The thing I was concerned about with Ryan, holding that chin straight up in the air, which he still did, but he kept the right hand up. And he was catching that Luke Campbell-like left hand that Fortuna was trying to throw. So Garcia made that correction, okay? And the other thing about Ryan Garcia that I was concerned about was him trying to fight like Canelo and just jumping in recklessly, thinking he could land some shot and get people out of there and walk people down. He didn't do that. When he did let his hands go, it was with a purpose. It's like playing basketball. All that between the legs and all that crap, that doesn't score a point. It means nothing. You look good doing all that, then you can't score. Okay? You look good missing. So with the whole thing with all this throwing 1,000 punches and shoe shining and all that, but if you're not really landing cleanly, man, you look good, but you're ineffective. Ryan Garcia was throwing punches with a purpose. So I like to see that in fighters where their work rate comes down some, but they're highly effective in what they're doing and what they're throwing. And you see that as far as their percent landed is a lot higher because they have a purpose for each punch and their accuracy is there and they're hurting the fighter. And Ryan Garcia was able to do that. Fortuna tried, but he just they knew to pick Fortuna and to put him in that fight to make Ryan Garcia look good. Now, as far as some people saying this is a precursor to Tank Davis, they need to get a left-hand fighter in there. If they're going to get a left-hand fighter in there, right, at 140 pounds, to really set the stage for Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, they should have put him in there with Regis Prograis. All right? That's what should have happened. But we know they're not going to do that. Nobody wants to fight Regis Prograis. So at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia did look good. He looked strong. There's something in that left hand, man. Got to give him credit. But with Tank Davis, right, he just fought against Rolly Romero. All right. Now he had a good dancing partner. Rolly is crazy. Rolly talks about everyone. He just doesn't care. He called Terrence Crawford ugly and said he's not a draw. He called Earl Spence droopy-eyed, called him ugly, said he wants to fight him at 147. He said that Devin Haney's ugly, looks primitive. He didn't get the Rolly Romero genes, although he's his father. He took those genes after Bill, and now he's all effed up. So Rolly is really a little off, you know. But as far as having a guy like that, that will help to sell a fight. And Rolly did help to sell that fight with Tank Davis. As a result, at the Barclays Center in May, they generated a live gate of more than $4 million. It's a lot of money, man. And with Ryan Garcia, you know, as far as his debut at the Crypto.com arena, they had over 11,000 fans, man, in there to witness his 19th professional knockout. So both of these guys are draws, all right? They're both draws. Now, as far as the fight happening, I don't think the fight is going to happen. I just don't see it, okay? Now, with De La Hoya, it's like he's had an epiphany. He wants to work with everybody. He wants to make the best fights. He wants to do this and that. Because he knows his roster doesn't run that deep, man, to where he can fight all of his guys, just keep everyone within the Golden Boy promotion stable. He can't do that. He's going to have to get out here, man, and try to make amends, repair broken relationships to try to get his guys big fights. But not many people want to work with him. So now you look at just the logistics of De La Hoya and Mayweather trying to come together to make this fight. I mean, there's going to be a lot of challenges, okay? First, they don't like, what's his name? Floyd Mayweather doesn't like De La Hoya. He just doesn't like him. You know, Mayweather doesn't want anything to do with De La Hoya. The second thing, right, is De La Hoya and Leonard Ellaby when it comes to Tank Davis. And this is something that everyone needs to understand. Ryan, when he talks about when they're having the negotiations, recording it, whether it's video or audio, and sharing it with the public to let everyone know it's not them, I'm going to tell you guys, right? First of all, Tank is the A side, as Mayweather would say. But if you didn't see that video where Leonard Ellaby was talking about Tank Davis, he and Mayweather want to help Tank Davis make the most money possible, the least amount of risk. They don't care about belts. With the belts, you know what the belts do? The belts give money to those sanctioning bodies, those sanctioning organizations. The belts is just something that's set up to just take advantage of fighters. Because if you guys didn't know, the fighter who has the belt and the opponent both get hit over the head a certain fee just to get in the ring and fight for that champion to retain his belt and for the challenger to challenge for it. So win or lose, both the champion and challenger have to pay a fee just to have the fight. And then whoever wins, if they want to keep the belt, they got to pay a fee. And that's crazy. So with Mayweather and Leonard Ellaby, their whole thing is to get Tank to make $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion without much risk at all and not worrying about no damn belts. Now, these are words that have come out of Ellaby's mouth. And we've heard Floyd talk about that. Once Floyd figured it out when he was a professional that those belts really didn't mean anything, you can't feed your children belts, as he would say. Floyd didn't care about that. He was all about making his money. Now, Floyd didn't take easy fights. When I hear people say bad things about Floyd, obviously these are people who've just bandwagonists. They hear somebody say something negative about Floyd and they just jump on the bandwagon and they decide to want to chime in too. I've never watched this man's fights from when he first started boxing. And even the fights he fought over the last 15 fights before he retired, he wasn't fighting bumps. Okay, so let's knock it off, all right? Hold your horses. Stop. Push pause. Floyd Mayweather deserves a lot of credit. But back to what I was saying about Tank Davis and Garcia and that fight happening. They're not going to worry about that. That's why Tank doesn't have he's learning now, but remember when Tank was talking about leaving Mayweather Promotions? He was out here saying, oh, Floyd wants to take the light and he doesn't like to see anyone else succeed or excel, and he was posting this stuff out there, which created a frenzy for all these different social media personalities to take that and run with it and create articles, and even for me to come out here and do a video. But that's not the case with Floyd Mayweather. He's not in competition with Gervonta. Gervonta was just inexperienced, but now he understands with Floyd, he's not trying to steal your thunder. And by him not putting you in those big fights, like what he had to go through, right, to get to the position he was in, he's figured out that that's not necessary. He can get Tank to make that $5 to $15 million paydays fighting nobodies. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is making as much money and taking the least amount of damage in the sport. So now that I've said that, that could be one of the reasons why Floyd isn't worried about fighting Ryan Garcia. Okay, so the second issue, right? And they're not worried about Ryan Garcia beating them anyway, right? But Ryan Garcia is looking good. But I just don't want anyone to get into this false sense that Ryan Garcia is improving or doing something spectacular. No, it's the opponent that was in front of him. But he's made some refinements, but he hasn't overhauled anything. He's a good fighter with fast hands, has power, but he's not showing me the footwork and he's not showing me super great defense, okay? And not enough to get in there and give Tank any real competition. After I went back and rewatched the fight, and then I understood everything that was going on with Fortuna coming into the fight and during the fight, I said that makes you see, sheds a whole different light on what Ryan Garcia was dealing with in front of him. Now, with this Showtime, DAZN, PBC, Golden Boy Promotions, that's a big cluster, man. Right? I'm not saying it can't work out. I'm not saying that those things can't happen. But it's just not that easy, man, for a fight like Garcia and Davis to come together. It's too complicated. It's going to require DAZN, which has a contract with Garcia, and Showtime, which has been Davis's exclusive home, man, to work together. That's just not something that happens. It's going to require Floyd and De La Hoya, and like I said earlier, bitter rivals to make a deal. And then it's going to need Haymon and Lupe Valencia to hammer out an agreement behind the scenes. Now, it's not impossible. HBO and Showtime collaborated in 2002, but that's 2002, man, when Lennox Lewis had faced Mike Tyson. And then they came again in 2015 when Mayweather faced Pacquiao. Now, the good news about when they do come together for these big fights, because it's all about money, right? So it's possible. Tyson Lewis generated nearly 2 million pay-per-view buys, $100 million in revenue. Not a bad deal. Mayweather Pacquiao, we all know, 4.4 million buys, man, almost $600 million or more in revenue. So everyone in those promotions got filthy rich. So if you look at a situation now with Davis and Garcia, some people say, well, it's not on that level, but what's the threshold, right? I'm going to tell you right now. Remember I said Steven Espinoza said he thinks it does at minimum of 500 pay-per-view buys. Let me tell you, that thing could do way more. And I'm going to tell you why. Tank has a specific audience. Ryan Garcia has a specific audience, okay? They've attracted a mature crowd, and they definitely had the attention of the younger generation. Look at how many followers these guys have, okay? But especially Ryan Garcia. If Ryan Garcia, which he doesn't do this, okay? He'll announce his fights, but he's not really out there pushing for people to buy, which he hasn't been on pay-per-view, but he's not pushing for anyone to come out here and buy DAZN, subscribe to DAZN. He's not pushing for anyone to do that. But if he has a pay-per-view event, you better believe if him, Ryan Garcia, Jake Paul, because all these guys are all these YouTube kind of colleagues, Ryan Garcia, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, And whoever else is involved in that YouTube world with these, tens and 20 millions of followers decided that they were going to come and promote and push the event to their followers. Don't tell me that this fight couldn't do 2 million buys. Easy. These are young people, man. That little $70, whatever they're going to charge. Don't tell me they won't buy that. Don't tell me they won't subscribe to DAZN. Or however they would end up working this out. Those guys could easily do it. Easily do it, man. 2 million pay-per-view buys. 3-4 million, I don't know about that. But I think they can easily, I think this is definitely 500,000 under that's super conservative estimate. But I think realistically, this is more like a 1.5 to 2.5 million pay-per-view buy type fight. Okay? And again, you can't just come and announce it and expect to sell that many. I think that Ryan would have to team up with his guys and come out there and really push it on their platforms because they have it. They have the audience. A guy like Tank Davis would have to push it on his platforms. Him and his team and remember, it's two different worlds. Some people are saying, "Oh, Tank Davis doesn't have that kind of reach." You're crazy, man. This man is heavily embedded, or deeply embedded in the hip hop scene, and not only that, the professional sports scene. So if with all the connections they have with the proper networking, they can get people to push this out, and this can easily bubble up 1.5 to 2.5 million buys. Now, when you look at it from that perspective, kind of hard for a guy like Mayweather, Haymon, Valencia, Espinoza, whoever the hell the XX are over there at DAZN, De La Hoya. Kind of hard for them to sit back, man, and just be stubborn and say, well, I don't like you, we're not going to do it, right? But at the same time, you could understand where a guy like Mayweather's like, well, why do we need to jump through all these hoops to come out here and force a situation that may not work out the way we want? I would say Garcia would be a tough fight for Tank. You're talking about someone who's 5'10", almost 5'11", and someone who's 5'5". Okay? Difference in reach and everything. That matters. But Tank has no problem, getting beyond that. But I can see Floyd just sitting back and like, nope, don't force anything. We got this we're on cruise control now. Okay? We got a seamless operation over here. We don't need to come down and force anything. And definitely we don't need to do anything that would benefit Oscar De La Hoya. Because at the end of the day, I've said this before, right? There's something going on with De La Hoya. And this could be what it takes to bail him out. Remember De La Hoya recently, see, it's quick that we forget things. De La Hoya came out, man, talking all this trash about how his company is worth $1 billion and he's got this person interested in buying it and all of this talk. And then all of that's just kind of fizzled out, man. So De La Hoya is just reaching. He's just reaching, man. And I really think he wants to make this big fight for Garcia because, one, Garcia wants it. But he knows that this can make real money for him and for his promotion, man, promotional company. But we'll see, man. But when it comes to De La Hoya, I just think his audience is shrinking. And he's trying to find a way to kind of breathe life back into that. But it's not going to be that easy to make this fight, man. But I think the money is definitely there. They're both young. Davis is definitely in his prime. I don't know. Do you guys? I don't think Ryan Garcia is really in his prime yet. I think these are those prime years, but I think he's still, 22? Tank is 28. So Ryan Garcia probably isn't even in his prime yet. So what I don't want to happen, okay, is for Tank to come down and take this fight because Ryan Garcia, hey, look, no matter how good he is, he's not in his prime. What we don't want to happen here is Tank come, make Ryan look stupid, okay? Whether he knocks him out or Tank outboxes him, because y'all keep forgetting, Tank can box. And then Ryan loses either by knockout or decision, and now we come 3-4 years down the road where Ryan is really getting busy, and we say about Tank versus Ryan what they say about Floyd against Canelo. Hold your horses. Oh, when Floyd fought Canelo, Canelo wasn't in his prime. He was just a young boy. He was just this kid. Floyd bullied him. Floyd took advantage of him. Yeah, Canelo started boxing pro when he was 15. All right? He wasn't no inexperienced, wet behind the ear kid. So knock it off. Floyd was just who he is. Floyd does that to everyone. He did that to everyone. And for those of you who feel like, oh, the Canelo now, he would come in and he would just knock, man, shut up. Right? I don't even use that word, but I'm going to tell you, shut up, man. There's no way in the world ever Canelo beat no damn Floyd Mayweather, man. Get out of here. A prime Canelo, this is a prime Canelo. The last 3 years, that's a prime Canelo. Will come and beat a prime Floyd. Are you crazy? You crazy, man? The Floyd Mayweather who fought Genaro Hernandez, he wasn't even in his damn prime. The Floyd Mayweather that fought Gotti, Sean B. Mitchell, Diego Corrales. Man, what the hell are y'all talking about? Chop Chop Corley? And I'm calling out the Chop Chop Corley fight, the Sean B. Mitchell fight, because those are fights where he got touched. But he was entering into his prime and getting busy. But you see, when he really started coming to himself, man, he was already a monster. But you look at his performances, man, y'all got to stop with this. Floyd Mayweather, man, ain't nobody. And I don't want to hear nothing about that guy, man. That's a Hispanic guy's name out there, man, who gave him a little bit of a Marquez. Nah, that's his name, man. He fought him twice. Castillo. Look. Nobody messing with Mayweather, okay? He's just a gifted, he's a blessed fighter, man. All right? And I'm not even, and I like boxing. I'm not even really a Floyd fan. But I know that Floyd deserves a whole lot of respect, man. That Floyd got busy. So I don't want people doing to Tank what they've done to Floyd, okay? They're already trying to say that Floyd, his opponents, don't really provide much of a challenge. People are already saying that about him. And I think that's pretty unfortunate, man, to say that about Tank Davis, man, saying that the opponents that he fights are questionable. Okay? I just don't think that's fair to say about Tank Davis. You know? But it is what it is. At the same time, we know what Floyd and Leonard Ellaby and Al Haymon, they're all about these guys making the most money possible, least amount of risk. And if they are going to get in there and take a risky fight, they want to make sure that, that financial structure is set up properly to where there's big money being made. Now, you look at Tank and Shakur Stevenson. That's not a fight that needs to happen. Do we want to see it? Yes. It's just not right. Tank and Devin Haney. Maybe all right because Davey is undisputed at 135. That may be worth making. Tank and Ryan Garcia at 140. Again, that's like Shakur Stevenson and Tank. Why? What does Tank gain by knocking out Ryan Garcia? Okay? Now, Tank and Teofimo Lopez. Again, what does he really gain by not going and fighting him right now? Remember, this isn't the days of Floyd Mayweather and De La Hoya and Tito Trinidad, where, you've seen all these different guys mixing it up and fighting all kind of top opponents, right? This boxing has become straight up a business for these guys now. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to see the big fights. But we got to understand that. And Floyd is forcing that down Gervonta's throat. And I can't blame him because he wants him to understand, don't go out here and mess up a good thing. Don't do that. I did that. Learn from my mistakes. And Floyd is definitely trying to help him. You guys can say what you want. I don't know how many you know. Badu Jack. Badu Jack's sitting on about 25, 30 million. I don't know if y'all knew that. So, let's put these in perspective. Floyd knows what he's doing. You may not like him because he's always, kind of, bragging and showing off and all that, but that's all part of the whole Money Mayweather character, okay? That's the reason why he can command the kind of purses that he does, because he's created this image. And people gravitate towards that. But that's not really who he is as a human being. That's just a character that he created. It's like me here doing it. What y'all seeing is a lot of me. But this hood champion, all that. If I was to ever explain the hood champion boxing or the hood champion thing, where that came from, a lot of you who see that would probably be surprised of how I came up with Hood Champions. Okay, but I'll get into that another time. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times what you see on the surface isn't really what, as far as an individual, it's not really what they're all about. But that being said, Tank, like Mayweather said, man, they are the A side, and no matter how many opponents Ryan Garcia can ricochet that damn right hand off of their head and land that left hand bomb and get them out of there, whether it's to the head or to the body, doesn't matter how many he does that to. I just don't think he's going to be able to really do that to a guy like Tank Davis. But Ryan Garcia probably has the best chance of getting to Tank than anyone else because of his speed and his reach. Problem with Ryan Garcia is, like I said in other videos, and some of you even commented on that, is his footwork and his defense, holding that chin in the air. And that's going to be, I think, his downfall, and that could happen sooner than later. Because the Tank Davis fight isn't going to happen, so we know who Ryan Garcia is going for now. Okay, he wants Teofimo Lopez. So he's going out here to fight Teofimo Lopez, if that happens. But that may not work out too good for Ryan Garcia either, because Teofimo Lopez can bang. But we'll see what happens in the future with these guys. But I just wanted to bring that to you, to give you a better understanding of Fortuna's situation, understanding of what we're really dealing with how many different people and at what levels from different organizations have to come through to try to make this work. It's happened in the past. Huge fights happen when these different networks come together. People got rich, okay? But at the same time, when you look at a guy like Mayweather and Canelo, and to this day, Mayweather, with a lot of people, they don't give him the credit because they felt that he cherry-picked Canelo. How the hell you arrive at that conclusion, I don't know. And they're already saying the same thing about Tank cherry-picking Ryan Garcia if he fights him, because Ryan Garcia isn't in his prime and he really isn't qualified to take on the job of challenging Gervonta Davis, which is complete madness, man. So I'm going to say, leave it as that. We'll let it play out as scripted. It's going to be what it's going to be. And as always, I appreciate you all's support. Y'all keep safe. Shout out to the veterans. And as always, I'm in the breeze.